My phone buzzed just as I stepped out of the shower. "Hi Marcus." Her voice was bright. Too bright. "I'm just calling to say, I'm getting married tomorrow. Officially. I withdrew everything from the accounts and sold the house. Goodbye." Laughter echoed in the background. Her mother. That smug, wine-drunk cackle I used to hear whenever I brought groceries instead of jewelry. "Enjoy your new life," she added, and the line went dead. For a full minute I just stood there. Water dripping from my hair, towel clutched in my hand. My ears burned, but I didn't scream. Didn't curse. I smiled. Because the house she claimed to have sold was never hers to begin with. 2 months ago, after noticing late-night texts and secret weekend errands, I'd quietly started moving assets. Talked to my lawyer. Shifted ownership. Locked down the trust. What she had sold, or thought she did, was an empty shell. A decoy deed tied to a shell company. The real house. It had a new owner. Me. Just me. But I let her believe the lie. Because the next 24 hours would change everything. I pulled out my phone and opened the private server where I'd saved the last 4 weeks of security footage. What I saw made my stomach tighten, but I stayed calm. Focused. They wanted to play with fire? They didn't know the matches were wet, and I had gasoline. I called someone I hadn't spoken to in 8 years. "It's time. Let's finish this." I met Adrian at a quiet cafe at 7:12 a.m. He looked just like he had 8 years ago, clean suit, ruthless eyes. We hadn't spoken since our fallout after college, but now I needed the best fixer I knew. "She played you," he said, sipping his espresso. "She thinks she did," I corrected. "But I let her play herself." I slid over a folder. Inside were bank statements, real estate documents, and screenshots of messages between my wife and a real estate agent. Everything's traceable to her and her mother. She used my identity without consent. "Let's make that useful." Adrian whistled low. "Wire fraud. Identity theft. Elder manipulation on the cosign. You've got a buffet." "She's getting married tonight," I added. "In a beachside villa. I want her served before she cuts the cake." He nodded. "Consider it done." Back home, I opened the guest room closet. My safe was untouched. Inside was the real deed, the prenuptial addendum she'd signed while half-drunk in Vegas, and a flash drive filled with 2 months of recordings. In one video, her mother was coaching her. "Drain him. Once he's broke, you ghost him. I'll find you a new one." I smiled. They thought they'd built a perfect betrayal, slow, rehearsed, calculated. They forgot one thing. I was watching. And when I strike, I don't yell. I document. Adrian texted one word, "Delivered." And then, a photo of my wife's stunned face as she opened the envelope mid-toast. The venue was beachside, all fake smiles and forced elegance. I didn't attend in person. I didn't need to. Adrian had positioned a young paralegal to blend in with the catering crew. When the cake was rolled out, champagne raised, and toasts began, my ex lifted her glass and smiled for the cameras. That's when the server placed the thick white envelope in front of her. She laughed, thinking it was another congratulatory gift. But the smile shattered as she read the first line. "Notice of fraudulent real estate transaction. Legal action imminent." The groom, a lanky dentist named Craig, leaned over and paled. His parents were confused, until the paralegal calmly stated, "I suggest you all get legal counsel. You've been implicated as co-beneficiaries in a fraudulent sale involving a house that's not legally hers to sell." Cameras were still rolling. Adrian had timed everything. But that wasn't the final blow. Back at my condo, I pressed send on a scheduled upload. A 2-minute clip showing my ex and her mother laughing over scamming Marcus dry now lived on every social platform with geotags. The hashtags were ruthless. Hashtag gold digger bride. Hashtag fake wedding files. Hashtag house of fraud. By midnight, her new in-laws had fled. Craig's business page was flooded. And her face? It was on the front page of a viral financial scandal subreddit. And me? I poured a drink. Sat back. Watched the house of lies she built catch fire, one match at a time. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. A trembling voice whispered, "Please?" I didn't know. I was used to. The voice on the other end of the phone was soft. Shaking. "Marcus, it's Craig. Her new husband." I didn't say a word. "She lied to me too," he said. "Told me you abandoned her. That she used the sale money for a new start. She never mentioned fraud. Never mentioned you." I let the silence linger until I heard him sniff. "She's locked herself in the bathroom. Reporters are outside. My clinic's getting death threats." I need to know what to do. I swirled my glass slowly. You need to call your lawyer. And the police. If you didn't sign anything yourself, you might still crawl out of this. He exhaled, a mix of relief and regret. I didn't even want to get married this fast. Her mother pushed it. Said it was our chance to build something powerful together. That made me pause. The mother. She'd been silent since the clip went viral. And something about that, her silence, didn't sit right with me. Craig added, she kept talking about trust funds, old money, power couples. I thought I was marrying up. You were marrying into something, I said. But not up. As I hung up, my mind spun faster than the ice in my glass. This wasn't just my ex being reckless. This was generational. A family pattern. A strategy. The wedding was just the surface. And whatever was brewing beneath it. I wasn't done unearthing it. The next morning I found a small envelope under my door. Inside it was a key, and a single line, if you want the truth, open the blue lockbox. The envelope was thick paper, the kind you don't find at convenience stores. No return address. Just my name typed in all caps. Inside, a small brass key with chipped blue paint, and a handwritten note. If you want the truth, open the blue lockbox. I knew exactly what it was. Back when we were married, my ex's mother kept a steel lockbox tucked in her antique cabinet. One she claimed held family deeds and memories. But it was always locked. Always hidden behind fake smiles and silk curtains. I drove to the old estate, the one they had tried to sell after forging my signature. But it hadn't sold. The title was still frozen, thanks to my legal hold. Nobody expected me to return. The security code was still the one I had set years ago. I stepped inside, walked to the cabinet, and there it was. The lock clicked open like it had been waiting. Inside, a stack of prenups. Doctored. Bank transfer receipts to overseas accounts. Medical documents. But the worst was a letter addressed to my ex. From her real father. She had hidden her true identity for years. Not out of shame, but for leverage. She wasn't just stealing from me. She was stealing a legacy. Just then my phone vibrated. One message, you took the box. We see you. I looked up. A red light blinked on the bookshelf across the room. My heartbeat wasn't just pounding, it roared. That blinking red light, it wasn't there before. I didn't wait. I snatched the documents, stuffed them in my coat, and moved to the hallway, smooth, quiet steps. That estate had too many secrets. Too many eyes. The hallway lights flickered once, then held steady. I walked straight past the kitchen. Ignored the creak in the floorboards by the side table. Outside, I called my most trusted friend, Joseph, a former federal investigator turned private data specialist. He picked up on the first ring. You finally opened it, he said without a hello. You knew. I planted the tracker. I knew they'd come back for it. Do you still have the burner phone I gave you? Yeah. Good. Turn it off. And disappear for a few hours. Let me pull every IP from that house camera. You're being watched. 3 hours later, Joseph called. You're going to want to sit for this. I didn't. 2 weeks before she left you, your ex-wife logged into a private offshore portal. She listed herself as a sole heir to an estate in Switzerland. The signature next to it? Yours. Forged. I said nothing. Joseph added, and she wasn't alone. I already knew the next word. Emily, I whispered. He paused. No, not just your wife. Her mother helped, but the real puppeteer is someone much closer to you. I met Joseph in person that evening. Rooftop bar. He slid his phone across the table. On the screen? Security footage, grainy but enough. There she was. Emily, my ex-wife, sitting beside my sister, laughing, signing. Another man joined them moments later, the notary I'd used 5 years ago to set up our international account for a joint development deal in Zurich. She had used that to steal my identity. But the twist? It wasn't just about money. Joseph's voice was low. They were after the trust too. Your dad left a safety net for your future kids. Emily and your sister petitioned to dissolve the trust and reroute the assets through your mom. She signed off. I clenched the glass in my hand. Your mother? He nodded slowly. They promised her a retirement villa in the French Riviera. My pulse slowed. Joseph, I said, staring out at the skyline, do you still have access to the offshore shell I registered when I was 26? The one under the dead LLC. He smirked. I do. You planning a comeback? I turned to face him. Come. Sure. No. I'm planning war. The moment I said those words, a shadow stepped out from behind the bar wall. It was my uncle. And he wasn't supposed to be alive. Uncle Robert? I whispered. The man stepped closer, face thin from illness, or hiding. I heard they tried to erase you too, he said. I've been waiting for your move. Turns out, he'd faked his own death after they siphoned his company's shares. And he'd been watching. He handed me a small leather notebook. Inside, detailed timelines, account links, conversations. Everything Emily, my sister, and my mother had done to steal, defraud, and manipulate. Even the offshore transactions Joseph couldn't trace. Use this, Uncle Robert said. I've already filed a sealed affidavit. The judge who helped them? He's been indicted. I felt cold fire in my chest. 2 months later, I walked into the courtroom. Emily was seated at the defense table. My sister? Well, my mother? Shaking. My attorney handed over the notebook. The judge reviewed it silently, then raised his eyes. Fraud, conspiracy, financial abuse, and obstruction of justice. He leaned forward. And Mr. Hale? The offshore trust you reactivated has already paid restitution to the Children's Endowment Fund. Nicely done. Emily tried to scream something, but the bailiff had already cuffed her. My sister collapsed. My mother? Couldn't even look me in the eyes. Uncle Robert squeezed my shoulder as we walked out. That night I returned to the rooftop bar. Alone. I ordered the same drink. Looked out over the city. Then I whispered to no one. You wanted me for my money. But in the end, it was the silence that made you pay. Silence that made you pay.